Halloween Around the World by Ferries. In the Enchanted Forest, the Gingerbread Man and a blue fox had just finished a game of checkers. This was the first time they had played, as the blue fox was new to the Enchanted Forest, or so the Gingerbread Man thought. As usual, he won. Nobody beats the Gingerbread Man in checkers. The fox stood up, and the Gingerbread Man became a bit scared. Would this fox try and eat him like the other fox had tried? The fox said, "Very good game, sir, but you made one big mistake. I do not like to lose." The Gingerbread Man thought it was best to disappear, so he began to run, saying, "Rah, rah," but before he could finish the second run, poof! The fox then changed into the dark fairy. She waved her wand, and once again, poof! The Gingerbread Man was gone. The green fairy had just arrived. She yelled, "You evil witch, where have you sent him?" The dark fairy laughed and replied, "If he is not here, he is there. Everyone must be somewhere. You will find him there, but he will be hard to be seen, because today there is Halloween." She laughed wickedly, and poof, was gone. The green fairy thought, "Oh, what a riddle. Let me think. If he is not here, he must be somewhere else, and it must be Halloween there. Ah, I know where there is." And then, poof, she too disappeared. Where do you think she's gone? Those who live in the Enchanted Forest regularly visit the human world. They can visit any time, but Halloween is their favourite day to go. To get there, they go through a passage in Fairy Mountain. The fairy magic that covers them acts as a guide for fairies to find them if needed. They can return to the Enchanted Forest by saying, "Time to go home," and the fairy magic brings them back. But these magic words only work if they enter the human world by passing through the Fairy Mountain. The Gingerbread Man had not passed through, and he was stuck in the human world until a fairy saved him. And since he did not pass through Fairy Mountain, the fairies had no way to know where he might be. The green fairy began her search in Australia, where it was already later in the day due to how time works in the human world. In the Enchanted Forest, there is no time. Children, dressed in dress-up costumes, were knocking on doors and saying, "Trick or treat." Then they would get some kind of treat, often lollies. They only went to houses with Halloween decorations on the door or mailbox, because those houses are the ones that give treats. Jack-o'-lanterns were everywhere. The weather was already warm, not cold, like in the northern part of the human world. When people lived in tall apartment buildings, they sent lollies down to the children using a bucket on a rope. The green fairy saw the Little Red Riding Hood in Sydney, going into a bakery with the wolf close behind. What could she be getting in there? And what could the wolf want? When she came out, the green fairy asked, "What did you get, dear?" "Oh, I bought 2 ghost cupcakes, a toffee apple and a chocolate apple. Granny loves the ghost cupcakes, so we will share them over tea. Then we'll have the apples. Granny's favourite is the toffee apple, and I love chocolate apples." The green fairy asked, "Have you seen the Gingerbread Man?" The girl answered, "There are some gingerbread pumpkins and ghosts in the bakery, but I didn't see the Gingerbread Man. Is he here?" The green fairy said, "Yes, and he's lost. I'm looking for him." Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, I hope he's okay. Red foxes in Australia love gingerbread and run very fast. I hope you find him soon. He may not be faster than those foxes." The green fairy replied, "Thank you, dear," and poof, she disappeared. She had to find the Gingerbread Man, so she ran off to another place. Where do you think she's gone? Red Riding Hood, meanwhile, was ready to return to the Enchanted Forest. She said, "Time to go home," and poof, she was back in the Enchanted Forest at Granny's door. The wolf, who'd been standing off to the side out of sight, thought, "Ah, ghost cupcakes, my favourite, and I love chocolate apples." But he had forgotten the magic words. He said, "Go to Granny's," and nothing happened. Time to go?" Nothing happened. "Home," he said. Still nothing. He was stuck. Do you think he will remember? The green fairy went to South Korea and found Goldilocks there. No one was trick-or-treating, and there were no jack-o'-lanterns. That is not the custom in South Korea. But adults were dressed up in very elaborate costumes for the parades. Children often went to the parades with their parents, but rarely had a costume. Shops and cafes were serving monster cupcakes and ghost donuts. The smell of jimdak, or ghost stew, and gonggolpang, skeleton bread, filled the air. Goldilocks was in a cafe in Seoul. The green fairy said, "Hello, dear. Are you enjoying the fine food?" Goldilocks replied, "The jimdak is too hot and the rice is too cold, but the gongopang is just right." "Have you seen the gingerbread man?" asked the green fairy. Goldilocks answered, "No. Has he run away again?" The green fairy said he started to, but the dark fairy sent him to the human world before he could get away. "I hope you find him," said the young girl, and she tried the jimdak again to see if it had cooled enough to eat. Next, the green fairy popped over to Ireland. Halloween began in Ireland nearly 2,000 years ago and was called Samhain. Children were trick-or-treating and jack-o'-lanterns were everywhere. Some families were playing snap-apple. An apple on a string is tied to a tree, and a girl was trying to bite the hanging apple as it was swung. Trick-or-treaters were all around, but some were playing a game called knock-a-dolly. They would knock on someone's door but run away before the door is opened. Do you think that trick is very nice? The green fairy found the three bears in a coffee shop on Grafton Street in Bewley, eating the Halloween specialty, barmbrack, a fruit cake filled with raisins and surprises. A treat is baked inside the cake as a type of fortune-telling game. You would think people would notice three bears in a cafe, but it was Halloween, so no one did. Baby Bear found a piece of straw in his slice of barmbrack and spat it out. Mother said, "Oh, that is good luck. It means you're going to have a good year." Baby Bear just kept eating his barmbrack and hoped there were no more lucky surprises. The green fairy asked the bears if they'd seen the gingerbread man. Mother replied, "No, sorry, did he run away again? It seems this happens every day." The bears went back to their barmbrack and the green fairy was off to another place. Poof! Next stop was Scotland. She saw children cutting scary faces into hollowed-out turnips, rutabagas and potatoes, then placing candles inside. Other kids were playing ducking for apples at a Halloween party. They were trying to grab apples that were floating in a tub of water using their mouth or a fork. Outside, children were trick-or-treating, or guising as it is called in Scotland. Can you guess where the word guising comes from? Guising comes from the word disguise, because kids are dressed up in disguises as they go from door to door. No one from the Enchanted Forest was in Scotland, so poof, the green fairy flew off again, this time to England, not too far away. In England, the green fairy went to London. That is where the king and queen live. Children were trick-or-treating. There were gingerbread skeleton cookies in the bakery. Gingerbread men originated in England in the 16th century when Queen Elizabeth I gave them to her guests at a party. Cinderella was just outside a cafe with a cup of tea and a soul cake, which is a small biscuit, a little like shortbread. She was dressed in her ball gown and wearing her glass slippers. She asked, "Can you turn this jack-o'-lantern into a coach and find some mice and lizards for horses and footmen? There is a ball at the palace tonight and I just must go. I hear the prince is so handsome." The green fairy replied, "No, dear, only your fairy godmother can do that. Fairies do not meddle in other fairies' magic. Sorry." She reminded Cinderella that she could go back to the Enchanted Forest any time by saying, "Time to go home," and that everyone from the Enchanted Forest must be back by midnight or they will be stuck in the human world for a year unless a fairy rescues them. She also reminded the girl not to lose her shoe. It was getting late and the green fairy desperately needed to find the gingerbread man. She went poof off to America and found Snow White in a town in southern Texas named Laredo. It is just across the Rio Grande River from the Mexican border. Children were trick-or-treating and jack-o'-lanterns, scarecrows and cornstalks were everywhere. Snow White was at a Halloween carnival. Children were going in a haunted house where other kids dressed like monsters and witches tried to scare them. Other kids were in the cakewalk, a large circle with cake spread around. Each cake had a number. Music is played and players march around the circle. When the music stops, if they are lucky and the number where they are standing is called, they get to pick a cake to take home. In another booth at the carnival, kids were bobbing for apples, trying to grab an apple with their teeth from a big basin filled with water. Snow White had won a singing contest. As you know, she loves to sing. Her prize was a basket full of Halloween treats that she would share with the dwarves. It was given to her by a woman dressed as a witch. There was candy corn, caramel apples, pumpkin bread, and one candy apple with a skull design on it. The green fairy reminded her of what happened the last time she ate an apple given to her by a witch, and then asked, "Have you seen the gingerbread man, dear?" "Oh yes, that naughty cookie man. He was running away as usual. Children dressed in scary costumes were chasing him all around. He was laughing and singing, 'Run, run.' Oh, I forget the rest. He ran north, or maybe it was south, towards that big river. He was just here a minute ago. Sorry you missed him." By now the gingerbread man had reached the river with the children close behind. A fox had just woken up. Foxes, as you may know, are nocturnal, meaning they sleep in the day and hunt at night. The fox thought, "Oh, what a lovely treat, running directly towards me on this Halloween night." She yelled, "Hop on my back and I'll help you escape on the river." The gingerbread man did, and across the river they went. The gingerbread man said, "Oh, thank you, Miss Fox. Those children wanted to take a bite out of me." The sly fox thought, "Don't we all?" and said, "Come closer so I can hear you better." As they neared Mexico on the other side of the river, the gingerbread man remembered the last time a fox helped him cross the river. He knew what to do. When the fox was just about to wade out of the water and have a tasty treat, the gingerbread man jumped off her back and began to run, laughing and singing, "Run, run!" Well, you know the rest. Some children were trick-or-treating. They were knocking on doors and saying, "Mi da mi calaverita? Can you give me my little skull?" A calaverita is a small skull made of sugar or chocolate. They'd never seen a gingerbread man being chased by a fox, so they joined the chase. The group passed two men standing by a burro. The first man said, "Now that's something you don't see every day, Edgardo." "What's that, Carlos?" replied Edgardo. "A gingerbread man being chased through the plaza by a red fox and children dressed as monsters," answered Carlos. "Oh, I don't know," said Edgardo. "It is Halloween, but it is a bit strange because gingerbread cookies, marinitos, are usually pigs." Finally, the gingerbread man outran the chasers. He hid in a wooden box and slept until morning. He was awakened by a noisy parade with lots of music. When he looked out of the box, he saw hundreds of skeletons marching towards him and thought they were chasing him. He began to run, but was too scared to say anything. It was the Day of the Dead in Mexico, El Dia de los Muertos. November 1st is the day Mexicans celebrate and remember their family members who have died. He ran by a house and could see people eating pan de muerto, a sweet bread with bone-shaped dough on top. They were also drinking hot chocolate. Calvaras, fake skulls often made of sugar and decorated with marigold flowers, were on a home altar called an ofrendas, with the favourite foods and beverages of the departed. As he ran by a cemetery, he saw people visiting the graves of family members who had passed and leaving gifts for them. The green fairy had just arrived and spotted him running ahead of the parade. She swooped down and lifted him high into the sky. As they looked south towards Guatemala, they saw huge kites floating in the sky. It was Kite Day in Guatemala, and people made and flew large colourful kites to honour their family members who had passed away. The gingerbread man asked if they could go see the kites. The green fairy said, "No, you have had enough adventure. I'm glad you're safe. Be sure to stay away from foxes, blue, red, any colour." And poof, they returned to the enchanted forest. The end.
Storyberries.